So welcome everyone to partner with us. This is a session that is held every second Wednesday of the month as we explore pressing topics in our work to build a world where everyone has food, a voice, and a safe place to call home. Each session offers an opportunity to hear from experts across CWS programs and faith communities by becoming a part of the collective effort to transform communities in your own backyard and around the world. So I want to give a warm welcome to everyone that's attending today and today's session. One second. Here we go. So today's session is called Cultivating Change, Community Transformation, CWS, and Faith Communities. And our mission, Church World Service is a faith-based organization transforming communities around the globe through just and sustainable responses to hunger, poverty, displacement, and disaster. And today's objectives. So we're going to explore the concepts of community transformation and its potential to create lasting positive change in the lives of vulnerable populations. We're going to discover how Church World Service is partnering with communities to drive transformation, learn how faith communities can collaborate with CWS, and also how to equip attendees with resources. Mission and key activities. So we call it the CBT team, but the Community Belonging and Transformation team equips local offices and communities to cultivate inclusive, compassionate, and welcoming neighborhoods to support our programs and foster a deep sense of belonging. Working across national and local programs, we achieve this through strategic partnerships, innovative approaches, community engagement, and technical assistance, with a focus on welcoming newcomers to inspire transformational change with or within their communities. So why belonging? So I put here a few bullets by belonging, and I'm just gonna sort of summarize these bullets that belonging is an essential and universal human need. It transcends cultural and social boundaries. And at CWS, our goal is to foster belonging with everyone, regardless of background, for them to feel a sense of connection, worth, equity, and shared purpose. When people truly belong, they feel empowered to collaborate, innovate, and address common challenges. So communities then discover their potential for growth and their capacity for a more just and sustainable future. All right, so jumping in, partner with us to build belonging. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Sarah. I think she's around here. And she's going to talk, yeah, she's going to talk a little bit about programs at CWS. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to talk a little bit about ways that different communities can get involved in belonging and in the local work that our organization does. So again, my name is Sarah Haas. I'm the Senior Manager for National Community Engagement, and I put my email on this slide because if you have any questions about any of these programs or opportunities, please feel free to reach out and ask me. If I don't know or if I'm not the right person, I can always send you in the right direction. So there's a bunch of different ways that you guys can get involved depending on your time and availability. The biggest one that you probably hear a lot about is co-sponsorship. And to put it really briefly, co-sponsorship is when a community group gets together, they partner with a local resettlement agency, typically it's 5 or more people, and they work with the local agency to provide the majority of core services for a newcomer in their family. And that can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes this is faith communities, sometimes this is social organizations, sometimes it's neighborhood groups. Sometimes I've seen some really good work too when it's just random people that have wanted to be involved and the resettlement agency has put them together. So this is probably, and if you wanted to think about it in tiers, probably the thing that requires the most organization. Next up, we have welcome teams, which is another way for a group of people to be involved. They're sort of like our step down from co-sponsorship. So they're just going to be like a group of volunteers that do less than the majority of core services for a newcomer family. Sometimes they only focus on one service. So we have a lot of offices that have welcome teams that just do housing setups or just do airport pickups, or sometimes they might do a variety of services for one newcomer family. So it can look like a lot of different things based on your skill set and your availability. Next up, we have Neighbor Network, which is the newest child of ours. So Neighbor Network is our private sponsorship program. And I know that a lot of us, when we think about private sponsorship, we think about sponsorship sort of in the way of a legally binding sort of relationship, right? So there are two different types of private sponsorship now that aren't necessarily how we would have previously thought about it, right? So we have Welcome Core, and that is new as of last year. And that was sort of something that the US State Department created to help folks that have been waiting in the resettlement pipeline for a long time. So another channel that newcomers can go through other than the traditional working with an agency pipeline. So it's similar in that a group of people come together and decide that they want to sponsor a newcomer. There's two types of different ways you can do this. One is that you can be placed with a random newcomer. And then more recently, they've come out with the phase where you can pick who you would like to sponsor if you know someone. But just like a point or a note, these folks have to have already been in the resettlement pipeline. And have gone through the appropriate checks. This isn't necessarily like a way to like skip the line or anything. I know some people have thought that. We also have private sponsorship for humanitarian parolees. So this has been really popular with our U4U or United for Ukraine or CHNV program, which is Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelans. And this is a pathway for Ukrainians and Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelans to work with private groups that can sponsor them so that they can receive humanitarian parole. It's a little different because humanitarian parole is only for 2 years. It's a temporary status, and it does require a US-based sponsor for them to be able to travel to the US. So they will not already be here or like on their way here. The group would need to get together and like fundraise and things before they're able to be partnered with someone. And the really cool thing about these two programs is that you don't have to do it alone. So whether you want to do Welcome Core or private sponsorship in any variety, you can partner with us and you can get technical assistance, support from someone at a local office or at headquarters so that you don't feel so alone and that you feel like you have the necessary tools, because we know in resettlement, we do this every day. But for people that are coming together to do private sponsorship, this might be your first time, right? So we want to make sure you have all the supports you can have. We also have individual volunteerism, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is when one individual can come and volunteer with an office. It can be ongoing, it can be a one-time activity, and it can look like a lot of different things, right? Every office has different needs, but some big ones that I've been seeing across the network are transportation, whether to and from like doctor's appointments and things like that, or travel training. I know when I did case management, travel training was always super fun because our public transportation system in the US is just super great and super easy, right? So teaching that to folks is always an adventure. Getting calls from clients like, I've been on this bus forever. How do I get off? Some other opportunities are things like English language tutoring, donation sorting, help with resume writing, different administrative tasks, and things like that. And really just depends on what your interests are, your background, and what the office needs. Day of service volunteering is really cool because it is also like the bonding activity. So a lot of employers or even like social groups or clubs, they'll do like a day of service. So I always tell people like, hey, if your employer or your group like does these like day of service events or wants to like donate, like please like think of us. We've done some like really awesome events with different employers. I know last year we had a really good one with Goldman Sachs where they came to the Jersey City office and they packed so many backpacks for back to school. These are typically like one-day events, but they can look a little different depending on your employer. I know some employers are like, you get X amount of hours per year or quarter. So, also I know we've had some really cool ones in Florida with Truist Bank doing like financial literacy classes as well. So stuff like that is always really cool. So don't forget about us. Um, in-kind and monetary donations. Offices always, always, always in need of in-kind. I always explain it this way. Clients currently only receive a one-time payment of $1,325 per person and their family, and that is all the money that they are ever going to get. So if you want to think about it that way, when it comes to like housing costs, furnishing a house, anything that you need in your life with just that amount of money. So that's why we are always looking for in-kind items or low-cost items, because we want to assist with trying to keep as much of that funding to the family as possible, right? So we're always looking for things like household furnishing so that we can make sure that their house is already furnished before they arrive and that they don't have to put any of their money or funds into that. Also, a big need is always cell phones or computers. Bikes is a big one for transportation, backpacks. Really depends by office. So let me know what area you're in, and I will put you in the right direction on what their needs are. Also, monetary donations, always, right? Cash is king. And also gift cards for families. We love to give out gift cards like for Walmart or for grocery stores or things. So, because we're really trying to empower families. We want them to be able to go out and pick the items that fit them and their families and their situations, and really give that power back to them that they may not have had for a while. Housing, obviously a huge issue. You guys know housing is difficult for everybody these days. So if you happen to know any landlords that would be really willing to rent to folks that don't have a credit history or have no like rental history, that would be amazing. Please send them our way. That's one of our biggest issues, right? I totally understand that people are weary of renting to people with no history. But unfortunately, that's just what it is. In the US, we count so much on things like credit scores and histories and things, and these folks just don't come with any of that. Or if your organization has any type of property that they'll be willing to rent out, please let us know. We are always on the lookout. And then the emergency fund, we have something in our team called the emergency fund, and offices can apply for that for emergency situations with clients. There's a really strict framework around this, and typically the ones that I have seen have been around severe like medical things or funerals or any sort of like DV or violence. So we always ask for folks to donate to that as well. And that is an application process that offices go through if they need any of those funds. I know I just threw a lot at you. At the end, please feel free to ask me any questions, or like I said, my email's up there. Thanks, guys. Oh, and next slide, actually, sorry, I just remembered. I put in our map. So I don't know who's controlling the PowerPoint, if it's Ruben or Cece. But I threw in a map of all of our current locations. We have, I believe, 53 different offices throughout the US right now. We're really heavy in the East Coast, but we're opening up more in the West now. So if you are near any of those offices and are interested in getting involved, please let us know. And back to Ruben, I believe.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. And you can see the map, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can see it now.
Okay. Okay. Because sometimes the internet kind of freezes. All right. So we'll move on to the next slide. So for today's session, we have we have a few faith leaders actually that are presenting, and they're presenting about their experience with CWS and also working with newcomers. First, I want to welcome Ryan Brown. He's a lead pastor for New Life Community Church. So Ryan, feel free to come off the mic and I'll let you introduce yourself and go from there.
Hey everyone, it's so good to be with you. It's humbling to be with you, to be a part of today's session training. And I am just quick bio. So I'm a Canadian kid relocated to the United States as a church revitalization. Didn't know I was going to be revitalizing a church, but when we got here, found out that's what we were doing. Ended up in the downtown area of our town in Carlisle, and which has put us right in the center, kind of in the hub of our county. And then just in being available, being good neighbors, we've just been part of growing and learning all about refugee resettlement and working super closely with CWS. So super excited to be a part of this time today. When I think about community transformation and just the word that was used in some of the material that Ruben and Stacy sent, I love the word transformation. A lot of times the word community development gets used. And the reality is that for what I've learned is that for folks specifically, development's important, but when we're walking with folks who are coming and becoming our neighbors for the first time, like, and have been through horrible situations and circumstances, like, development isn't enough. Transformation is what we need to be thinking about. So I absolutely love the word transformation that gets used. And I think community transformation versus individual transformation. And I could go on and on about this, but like so often, we're all about the needs of the individual. And really, like, I do think it's a community versus individual transformation. I mean, I take seriously the call to like love our neighbor as ourself. And if it's all about me, if it's all about the individual, then really what ends up happening is everybody else kind of becomes my competitor. And so as we've been walking within our community here at New Life, we're always talking about community, relationship. It's about neighboring versus just what needs do I have? Because again, we don't want to see our neighbors as our competitors taking away. And but that's the rhetoric that gets used so often, is like, well, if we move people into our neighborhood, then they're going to be taking away our services, which ultimately is someone saying, taking away my stuff, right? And so this whole idea of community transformation versus individual, and then who is the competition? And from a faith-based conversation, like the competition is the stereotypes, the racism, the needs that are needed that aren't being met. And I think if community transformation is the goal, then really brokenness, injustice, inequality, violence, those are my competitors. Those are the things that then I'm going to be working against. And our thinking has to change so that our actions follow from the right place. And that's been a big part of walking with CWS and learning, about community transformation, really like making sure that the reason we're doing anything we're doing in our community is for the right reason in order to bring about transformation.
Ready for the next slide?
Yep, please. Sorry.
All right. Just making sure. I heard the silence. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's my cue.
Yeah. So for us, then, how do we as a church become a catalyst for change? And so for us, it really started with like asking the right questions. Like, what is our role? Like, this is happening. It's not happening. So waking up was a part of it. But then starting to ask the right question: what is our role as a church in the community? Like, we've really said, like, we're going to own the 6 blocks around our church. Now, New Life is like heavily, connected within our whole community and really within our county. We're a central hub of service that, all agencies look to, from the court system to, again, social services and the networks of faith. But what is our role specifically as we're looking at our neighbors? It's not that we don't have a role, but what is our role? And I think, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of faith communities just totally opt out and say, like, oh, we can't do anything. So the asking the right question is really important. And then we started to do the homework. So I'm always about networking. And so specifically back, when the initial, at least for our area, there were initial significant group of folks coming from Afghanistan. It was like, okay, like, who's involved? Who do we talk to? How do we help? And so we did our homework, and part of that homework was getting aligned with CWS. And we just started to listen, started to identify the unique gaps that were there. One of the big ones was transportation. We had about 40 families in a hotel that was outside of our community. And so we have a bike shop, Life Cycle, that's a part of one of our ministries here at New Life. And so we literally, like, just kept loading our trucks and taking, bicycles and helmets and locks, and just resourced every single person with a bicycle, helped them learn how to ride so that they could get back and forth to new jobs safely. So that identifying the gaps and needs that we could be a part of meeting. There were things like food. We don't typically do much in the area of food, so we partnered with our local food bank and we worked together as a collaborative. And so again, step in with faith was a big part of it. Like, none of us speak the language, so how are we going to do this? And so we just had to, grab partners and trust, again, that we weren't going to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, and believe that just by having the right heart, trusting our relationship with CWS and being guided by them, and some of our other partners, and then in humility, just like being willing and available. Again, not looking to control or and we've continued to dream. One of the things we created, and I can, maybe Ruben send you this or something if there's a resource to go out. But we created a community needs roadmap, and it's not just for refugees, but one of the main blocks on this is specifically for refugees. All of the main community organizations that provide certain services. So whether you're in an addiction and recovery, or we just created it. And that's been a part of continuing to dream as a church. How do we continue to be a catalyst for change? Next slide, please, Ruben, and tell me if I'm going too long.
No, you're good.
Part of it, like I've mentioned, is it's not about us. It's like, how do we empower collaborative action? How do we bring others around the table so that, again, we're not feeling more burden or taking on more than we can do. One of the things I'm a stickler for is, like, if New Life is going to get involved, then it has to be sustainable. Commitment needs to be long haul. Consistency needs to be critical. And so we just started to also then identify our connections. Who else is there? Who can we bring in? Who can we partner with? And who has passions that are similar? Who's going to be consistent? Who's not going to be, like, in for the initial part and then out when it gets hard? Not that it's not hard the whole way through, but I think you know what I mean when I say that. And then I think what was really important for us, and especially as we began to involve not just like our staff team, but New Life is like volunteers are critical to everything we do. And so it was really important to identify some simple on-ramps, ways that we could fulfill gaps. So making sure that like the mechanics, volunteer mechanics that come into our bike shop knew that they're working on bikes for refugees. Like just, like, oh, wow, we have refugees moving into our area. Like I was so surprised people had no clue. And so just making these simple on-ramps that people that were donating bicycles, hey, you know that you're doing this. Our intake folks here at New Life, making sure that they knew that as soon as people were housed, we are also the organization in Carlisle area that provides furniture, household goods, and all of those needs for anyone moving from homelessness into a home. And so again, just letting people know, like, there's probably going to be about 40 families that are going to be housed that we're going to need to be ready for. And then inviting other churches, other teams to be a part of the delivery process, so that there was hands-on touch and understanding. I think, again, connecting dots with other partners, spending time, helping everybody be in the know with clarity. And then again, like if we're going to be about collaborative action, like I just come back to commitment, consistency, and presence. They're just absolutely essential. And then, did I have another slide or is that it? I think that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, some simple things, some difficult things, more things that I could elaborate on another time.
Thank you so much, Ryan. That was just wonderful. Now we're gonna go ahead and gonna introduce if I mispronounce anything, please let me know. The Haiti
I think
Mosque.
Hadi.
Yeah.
Hadi.
Hadi. Thank you, Hadi Mosque, Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, and we have Saima and Safra.
Oh, yes.
So welcome. Feel free to introduce yourselves and let me know when you're ready for the next slides for topics and also the flyers that you would like to share.
Sure, sure. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much, Pastor Brown. That was really well organized. The slides, really enjoyed it. So my name is Saima Mumtaz, and I am the outreach coordinator for the Women's Auxiliary for Hadi Mosque, Ahmadiyya Muslim Community. And I actually, my journey or our journey, Hadi Mosque journey, actually started shortly after the pandemic lifted, and we were able to at least venture out a little bit. And then I got an email from someone who had recommended my name to be on the Zoom call with Alex, who is now the director for CWS Harrisburg. And apparently they were opening up something, an office. They wanted to open up an office in Harrisburg, and they wanted to kind of get the community leaders together. I don't know why they considered me a leader, but hence there was my name. And I was in the meeting. So that's where the journey started. And then shortly after, Alex reached out if we could help out with the first family that came was an Afghani family to Harrisburg. And I'm very honored to say that they were, that Hadi Mosque and the Muslim community helped them out. We made and another church, I can't remember what the church's name is, but together we helped this family out. And they needed someone who can speak Farsi or Pashto. And the only person that I knew at that time was Dure. So Dure Sharif, who is with you guys now. So she got pulled in as a volunteer, and she spent the whole day with the family, and the rest is history. So now Dure is I think she's the associate director of resettlement.
Correct. Of resettlement and placement, right?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But Hadi Mosque has been in the community, Harrisburg community, for the past 10 years. And our doors have always been open to the community. We've done a lot of interfaiths. We've done a lot of justice work in the area. So this I feel like is a chapter for us. I mean, in service, a new chapter, but a very fulfilling chapter. So I'm going to kind of stop there so I can give Sabahat the chance to speak and introduce herself.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my journey is a little bit similar to Saima's, but I belong to the same Hadi Mosque community, and I've been part of it since 2008. Um, so my journey and involvement in this started after the pandemic. I was already part of the Women Auxiliary at Hadi Mosque. We have a department which literally translates into serving humanity. And there's a department there which usually we just use it when a family is in need. If there's an illness, we provide meals. If there is companionship needed, someone goes and pays a visit. So there was already a department like that. But after the pandemic and with Durra's involvement in CWS, that entire department needed many volunteers from the community, and it just expanded. And I was part of that serving humanity department, and we just got involved with CWS. In the last 6-7 months, we have received 20 new families that belong to our community. And so it's been a huge influx. And it has been a training right on the ground. We haven't had time to even prepare as such. But I think that footing was already there because we're used to serving, and a lot of the Hadi Mosque work is volunteer based. So we already had a good pool of volunteers. We just had to draw their attention to this influx of new families coming in. And so Ahmadi Muslims are a persecuted group in Pakistan. So a lot of the new families that were coming are mostly from Pakistan that our mosque has been receiving, and they've had to wait 4 or 5 years in some of the refugee camps in Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Thailand. And when they finally, after the administration changed and a lot of refugees were allowed to enter, that's when we started receiving this influx. So I think Saima, jump in whenever you feel the need, but I think for us, the biggest challenge was to identify what are the immediate needs of these families that are coming in. And I think Dure being at CWS, she already had a list that, these are the things that we can assist with, and these are the things you guys can help us sort of accomplish. Simon, I think you can jump in, but for us, the first thing is to provide them with a welcome meal and have someone from our congregation visit them.
I think what's going to be helpful, Ruben, since we don't have slides, if you can just prompt us into the next question after the introduction. So,
Sure.
yeah, sorry. So
No,
then kind of
don't be.
on track and on topic.
And I'll go ahead and I put the screen with the talking points. But again, this is free flow and just talk about your experience. But yeah, you have some talking points there to guide yourself. And whenever you want me to switch to the flyers, they're the next slides.
Yeah. I think how, you transform the newcomers' experience and change the community. I think Sabahat actually, so our situation was unique because we weren't hosting and we weren't bringing in just one family at a time. We were having multiple families at a time. The biggest advantage for us was at Hadi Mosque was that, we spoke their language. So there wasn't a huge language barrier. There wasn't that, we had to relearn or learn a new culture or understand their religion. So we didn't have those extra things that, a lot of the faith groups may have to, even with one family. And that could be a lot and that could be challenging. So we do acknowledge that. So that was easier, a little bit easier for us, but that didn't mean that it didn't come with challenges. One of the things that it changed in our community, as Sabahat was saying, in our Amdia Muslim community, Hadi Mosque internally, as Sabahat was saying, that we already have this internal program that we provided service, community service, and service internally. We actually never had to really provide on a large scale like this service to so many families internally. And, you know, like as a faith family, when you have family, it's, they come with a lot of expectations too, right? So we had to kind of like not only navigate their needs, but we also had to navigate their expectations. However, what I really appreciated was that CWS helped out a lot because most of the families came through CWS, and they did help out with the bulk of the needs were fulfilled by CWS, and we filled in as many of the gaps as we could. It did bring our community together a little bit more internally, and it made us appreciate, for those of us who lived here, because many of us have experienced that persecution, and we have come here maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago because of the persecution. And so it made us appreciate the things in our own lives as well. You know, it made us
Right.
reappreciate that.
I think Hadi Mosque, even our community went through a huge cultural shift because a lot of our congregation are born Americans. So we are used to a certain way. And then when you have, when we were a congregation of about 350 around that time, and then having a small congregation or middle-sized congregation have an influx of 20 families, you're talking about 80, around 60 to 80 new people. That's a huge cultural shift. So it has been a learning curve for all of us as well. But like Pastor Ryan said, you know, involving our youth into these resettlement programs and helping the new families has been a humbling lesson. You don't feel like, oh, you know, you don't feel an invasion of your space. You actually start empathizing and helping them resettle. So getting more members involved in resettlement has made the transition easier.
That's so beautiful. It really is mutually enriching. It's like one hand washing the
Right.
other, right? When you come together, and even the culture is very similar, uh, there's always something new to learn.
And then
So
we utilize
incredible.
the new families to receive the newer families. And in that, the magic is that the new families, they are the only ones who can identify the anxiety of settling into a new country. We can't. So they are able to help the new families coming in and help easing off that worry and identifying, you know, where they can seek help and guide them into, you know, different areas like schooling and housing. What are the better schools in the neighborhood? Where is there better housing? All those needs, I think we have involved the new families as well in helping the newer families settle in.
Yeah. And I think we had to kind of go back and structure the refugee program at Hadi Mosque. I mean, we have groups now, WhatsApp groups that are just
Yes.
internally just pertain to our refugee members. And we had to build this program as the refugees, our refugees, you know, kept coming in. And then we started building on that structure. Like we internally started looking at what was working, what was not working, what was needed, what was given by CWS and other resources. So we didn't, you know, we didn't have to put our time and energy and money into those resources. So, you know, so talk started, we started making groups, leadership got involved. And now I think it's a pretty structured program where we, as new families come in, we know where to plug in, you know, stuff, and we know who to pull in, where to go. Like, you know, volunteers are huge. And as you guys know that, you know, sometimes you have a lot of volunteers, sometimes you don't. It's the same with us internally as well. And I'm sure that Pastor Brown would agree, you know, there are days when you're just like, we don't need this many people. And then there are days are like, where are the people? You know, so we have those, we still have those ongoing challenges. But I think within the 3-4 years, we've streamlined our the refugee program within Hadi Mosque.
So I think initially a monetary donation was a huge pressure on the congregation, and that's when Dore came in handy because she introduced us to these federal programs where we can apply and receive some aid. So that really sort of eased that pressure on the congregation of supporting these new families monetarily. And I think just connecting to your local resources and tapping into those, and then supplementing wherever you can. But so I think if you don't mind, Ruben, I'm going to quickly go down the list of things that we have done.
Sure,
Do you have time?
sure. We're getting close
Okay.
to being tight at time because Stacy still needs
Sure.
to present
Then
as
we can
well.
just
But no, go through
we
it.
can
Go
go to
through
the
it.
flyer. That will sort of summarize a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so these are some of the programs that we had developed and successfully ran them. It was the school back to school drive. We had about 300 items donated, 300 to 400 items donated before the school kids went back to school. We have a back to school night planned in 2 weeks where we can help the parents navigate the school system and help kids succeed. You can go, and then the next slide. And then we had a welcome dinner for the new families a couple of months ago, just to sort of welcome them to the congregation and to America, and sort of culturally get them navigated a little bit. And then we had a winter clothing drive because a lot of these people are coming from tropical places. They don't have the right clothing, so we participated in that as well.
Beautiful. You guys want to say anything else? I don't want to cut you off or anything.
No, I
no.
just,
Okay.
yeah, it's been a humbling experience for us. It really has.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to Stacy Clack.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us today. My name is Stacy Clack. I'm the Director of Community Belonging and Transformation at CWS. And I wanted to share a little bit of my story with you all. So I came to CWS 5 years ago, but got started in resettlement probably in about 2015, where I just started going to a local sewing club and providing daycare for the children while the women who came into our community of Grand Rapids, Michigan, learned how to sew. And so they created different projects every week. And my friend and I ran a program for the kiddos to just have crafts and activities and snacks during that time so that moms could focus on what they were creating and having that fellowship time together. That sort of transformed, we'll use the word transformation, that transformed into really asking myself in 2016 of what does it mean to be a person of welcome within my community? How do I show up for my children, for my family? How do I show up for my neighbors in my cul-de-sac, in my community, in my city, in my state? What does that mean if I want to be a person of welcome? This was right around the time that the former administration put in the first Muslim ban. And I came to the realization that I can stand on a street corner all day and say I want newcomers to be welcome. But if I haven't welcomed one into my home that day, I haven't really made a difference in the life of a newcomer. And so how can I extend that welcome? And so I gathered a group of my friends and said, I want newcomers coming to Grand Rapids to know that they're loved and they're welcome here, and we're so excited to have them. So let's go to English classes and let's bring in food every day for a week and just say, we're glad you're here. People commune around food in all different cultures. It's like a universal love language. I know I love it when I show up to a friend's house and they have like warm muffins or bread. And so thinking about how we can take that just simple act of sharing a meal and communing together and having that be an opportunity for us to say, we're glad you're here. And so we did that for a week. Simultaneously, I was getting involved with our local resettlement agency to provide welcome to families arriving to the United States. And so you'll see some of the pictures here from the time when I led our church's ministry to welcome newcomers. And it was incredibly transformational for our church to be involved in this process. I know when you look at what is required of a co-sponsor, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, perhaps. But our church had reached out on a Thursday saying, hey, we would love to welcome a family, and got the, yes, we'd love to match you with a family. That sounds great. And within 24 hours, we got a call saying, guess what? The family arrives on Tuesday. And we were like, what? And I remember feeling really overwhelmed. And one of my very dear friends, who has always just been someone who has been an incredible example of faith in my life, said to me, don't you think that the good Lord has gone before you to make the way for your church to be involved in this welcome? And I was like, I mean, yeah, but I kind of want to be anxious right now because that's where I'm like living and that's feeling okay right now. And they're like, no, like you have to have more trust. And so I was like, okay, we ended up collecting all of the resources we needed for the family. We shared it on Sunday. By Monday, we had all the resources to fill up the entire home. That evening, though, at 4 o'clock, we still didn't have a home. I remember calling the resettlement agency all day. Do you know where you're putting them? Do you know where they're going to be? Where are we moving all this stuff to? They arrive tomorrow night at midnight. Like, we have to have a place to bring them to. And my dear friend again, was like, don't you trust that there will be a way made so that you can provide this welcome? And I was still a little bit stubborn. And she goes, just put it out on social media and see what happens. And so I just put on my social media, on my Facebook, saying, hey, our church is involved in welcoming a newcomer. We really are looking for a home to put them in. And within 30 minutes, I kid you not, we had a community member that came forward that said, I have a home. It has the bedrooms you need. And we found out it was 1 mile from our church. And so it was right in the community of our church. So it was proximate to where we were going to be welcoming those individuals into our community. And it gets even crazier. So I was on the way to go meet the homeowner to like sort of check out the house and make sure that it would be okay for the family. And I get a text from the communication specialist saying, just wanted to update you to one of the boys is in a wheelchair. And so he's going to need to have a wheelchair accessible home. And I was like, oh, well, the house I'm going to look at is a 2-story, so this isn't going to work. We'll have to go to like plan B or something. I don't know. I was kind of on the way, and I kid you not, I pull in the driveway and I pull all the way back and I turn, and right at the back of the house is a handicap accessible ramp on a house that we didn't even say that was a need. And so really, truly, my faith community was incredibly enriched from that experience. Like just seeing that if you're just willing to say yes, a way will be made. And so I think that whether you are of like the Jewish tradition, Muslim tradition, Christian tradition, we all believe in welcoming the newcomer and welcoming the stranger into our communities. And so it was really, really, really impactful for our church to see just how that welcome sort of facilitated itself. I mean, there were challenges, yes, like language barriers and different things, but there always seemed to be just enough support to be able to provide that welcome. It has been transformational in my community in general, just seeing the way that our church has really stepped up to recognize that as we got involved in welcoming these newcomers, like Pastor Ryan said, we became aware of systemic gaps in our community that our church could then step into and like be a bridge to meet needs, not just for the newcomers we were welcoming, but for the community at large. So it slowly started making Grand Rapids not just a great place for newcomers, but additionally a great place for all of our community members, because as we're using our positionality and power as a faith community and partnering with these newcomer families, we're able to move the dial on some of these systemic, structural, or like cultural barriers for some of our newcomers to be able to show up in our community and express their full selves. And so I just wanted to end this with encouraging you all. We've heard from Pastor Ryan, we've heard from our friends at the mosque just about the great way that welcoming newcomers has changed their community, changed newcomers, changed the lives of the folks in their faith communities, and just inspired us to really think about who is our neighbor and how to love them well. And so would encourage you, even if you're a little bit nervous like I was, because it seems like a very large task to take on, that CWS is here to support you all the way through that journey. And then also just that, just by saying yes and being willing to be a welcomer, I really believe that you will be used in a way to let these newcomers coming into our communities know that we're excited that they're here and we recognize the contribution and the richness that they bring into each of our cities when they arrive. With that, I think I'm turning it back to Ruben to go over our next step slides, which are action steps for you all to get involved.
Thank you, Stacy. What a beautiful story. So the action steps. So first, you can donate to the CWS Emergency Welcome Fund or to a local resettlement office. Secondly, you can attend our session on September 26th on welcoming newcomers, faith communities leading the way. And number three, take our sponsorship assessment to assess what type of sponsorship is best for you. So lastly, we have, if you have any questions for our participants, any questions about the programs, feel free to ask now. But in the meanwhile, I just really want to thank all of the participants today. It's just really inspiring to see how communities have transformed, how lives have transformed, how we grow, and just by helping out a bit. But no, it's been very, very beautiful. Thank you all for your participation today.
Hey, Ruben, I'm going to drop the link to I dropped the link to the sponsorship assessment. I also dropped a link to the Emergency Welcome Fund, and I'm going to now drop a link to the session that is happening on the 26th.
On the 26th, yeah.
So I just have
Nancy
to
was
grab it
asking
a
about
second.
it.
I didn't want you to close the webinar before.
No, yeah. I was checking the chat right now before
let me grab it that
concluding. We
way.
still have a few minutes.
And Ruben, I did throw into the chat too a PDF of the community needs roadmap that we developed. So that's there as a sample, as well as kind of what we've done for our whole community. And that's used by probably about 30 partner organizations. We kind of developed it together. The other thing that's just really cool that we're now working on. So like, yeah, the initial steps were kind of what do we have? But we're working with our local CWS folks in Harrisburg to literally to have New Life become a resource hub for our whole community, to be able to be that first primary place of needs being met. So it's humbling and it's scary. And you step in, just like the other said, but man, when we do that, you just can't stop, because you just see transformation happening. And so yeah, just inspired by all three of you ladies who shared. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for sharing that story, Stacy. That's really inspiring, and that's been most of our experience working with families. People's generosity really takes you by surprise in such a beautiful way, and it also is kind of restores your faith in humanity. So it has been a very emotionally fulfilling experience as well, and spiritually.
Yeah, it's been really, I agree that whole intersection of allowing people to like live out their faith in action has been really beautiful to see. And it's been interesting to see how much individuals within our group, within our faith community, how much they've grown in their trust and in their service, and just in their faith, in understanding what their role is as a member of our faith community to be able to welcome newcomers.
And also, I'm just going to echo what everyone said. I think this is just a glimpse of what our country can look like and what direction it needs to go in. And organizations like CWS and churches and mosques who are opening their arms and sacrificing their time and their energy. This is what the U.S., this is one of its strengths. And as an immigrant, not a refugee, but as an immigrant, this is a service that I feel like is what is the cornerstone of our nation. So to me, my faith is always there, but as an American, this also really inspires me to see all of you doing this work. So thank you for the opportunity. I have to hop off. I'm sorry for work commitment, but thank you all so much. Thank you.
No, thank you as well. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.